All right, good morning, everyone. We're recording, it's live. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Eastern Shore delegation. Today is January 12th, 2024. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, Senator Carrozza. Good to see you, and we are so happy you are willing to offer prayer this morning. So good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues and friends. Today, at our first Eastern Shore meeting this session, we offer a prayer of gratitude. Heavenly Father, as we gather together as an Eastern Shore delegation with our shore partners.
Mouse? Nope, we're good.
Good.
All right.
We thank you for our many blessings.
Yeah, I think you would probably prefer that.
We thank you.
Senator Mouse, please mute.
Oh. Good morning.
Heavenly Father, as we gather together as an Eastern Shore delegation with our shore partners, we thank you for our many blessings, the gift of Maryland's beautiful Eastern Shore, the gift of living and working on the shore, and the gift of representing and advocating for the people of the Eastern Shore. We also are grateful for the life and public service of two Maryland leaders who have recently passed on and who have been great friends and supporters of the Eastern Shore. Longtime Maryland Veterans Secretary George Owings, a Marine who served in the Vietnam War, and former Maryland State Senator and Majority Leader Doug J.J. Peters. We pray for their families and know that their legacy will inspire our own work as a delegation. Lord God, we ask you to bless our work together as we thank you for the opportunity to serve. And we ask this in Jesus' name and say together, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Senator Carrozza. So members, before we do the meeting in minutes, there's a couple of reminders that I've been asked to share. First is just make sure that you're muted unless you're presenting, especially when the prayer is being requested there, Johnny. The more important message is this year, the chat feature is no longer available during the meetings. In most of these Zoom meetings, this was a tool that many people did use, but that is no longer available. And just wanted to let you know that's the case. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 17th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. So members, last year we had many cabinet secretaries come in and present to us. Some of those cabinet secretaries will be presenting to us this coming session. It is our goal through this second year to capture everyone in the administration and hear from them. Today, we're going to have the Director, Paul Pinsky with Maryland Energy Administration, and Secretary for the Department of Aging, Carmel Roque. So with that, I'd like to see, is Director Pinsky on with us right now? Do you not see him? Okay. So we are not seeing Paul Pinsky on right now. Let me see. Can we, is Carmel Roque available?
I'm here and happy to present if you want me to just go ahead.
So good morning to you and welcome to the Eastern Shore delegation. Yeah.
Thank you
yes,
for having
absolutely.
me.
Why don't you go ahead and present, and at the end of your presentation, we'll certainly have questions and we'll ask at the end.
Okay, that sounds great. So just to start with, I do have a few staff members here, and maybe toward the end we'll introduce them as well, just so that you're aware of who's in the room. I am Carmel Roque, and I am thrilled to meet with the Eastern Shore delegation. And I have been with the Moore Miller administration since last February, and I'm sorry that I wasn't available last year to meet with all of you. So I'm glad I get to do that now. Just so you'll know a little bit about me, my background is a very long career caring for older people, their families, and care providers. And I've been everything from a geriatric social worker to a CEO. And so I'm very profoundly committed to older people and their well-being. And I have had the great privilege of being able to really spend my career focused on that group of people. And I've come up through the ranks, so to speak. So I know a lot about how the lives of older people and their families and care providers are impacted by funding, by policy, and just by, the ups and downs of our national and local economic situations and political situations. But I want to say, first and foremost, and I'm very humbled to be here in front of you, I have had no experience except the last 10 months in government. And I have learned so much. First and foremost, I've learned something that I don't think you can know until you are inside of state government or local government, that it is truly a life of service. And being able to draw closer to both the people who make decisions on behalf of older people, but also to be able to visit across the state and talk very directly with older people and their families themselves, but also with the folks at the local area agencies on aging, as well as when I'm on my tours around the state. Usually the area agencies also pull together other people, key decision makers that I can meet with, and I'm very appreciative of that. I have been able to visit with some of the counties on the shore, and I have a MAC visit coming up in February, so I'll be there. So I'm going to start with the slides, and someone on my team is
going to go for the breakfast this morning, and
somebody needs to turn off their sound.
if I had other stuff, I wanted to go to this Eastern delegation meeting afterwards, but full live stream.
Andrea, or
I did. I think I've been before.
Here we
It was
go.
useful, but I just didn't have other stuff lined up.
So someone needs to get on mute. I don't know who that is, but just be aware we're all listening. So these were my overarching goals when I came in and first began to lead the agency. What I wanted to do was to think about, sort of in the broadest possible sense, what is it we want for older people in Maryland? And we want them to be able to live healthy, financially secure, socially connected, and purposeful lives across their full lifespan. And what we tend to do in the aging services world is focus on what's happening at the very end of life and not be thinking that there are many things that can happen earlier on in someone's lifespan that impacts what their late life is like, what their old age is like. And we want everyone to be able to have the privilege of living their full 100-year lifespan with these benefits, the benefits of our great American society. Next slide. So this is a slide that I'd like to show because I want decision makers in the state to understand that as some of us, myself particularly, are aging rapidly, the state is moving from basically a young state to a state with a population that is predominantly over the age of 50. And this is happening very, very quickly. In the next 6 years, we will have more people in our state over 60 than under 18, and that's a first. So what this visualization is it's showing you the change that is occurring in the age 50 population. And as it gets darker, more of the population is over 50, 35% or more. And I know all of you know the implications of that in your counties. Next slide. So I thought I'd just briefly tell you a little bit about what is the Department on Aging. Well, from what I could tell, we are one of the best kept secrets in the state. And that's something that we're working really hard to change. But the Department on Aging is the federally the federal government says each state must have a unit on aging. So that is what the Maryland Department on Aging is. And then the way the rest of this works across the state is the Maryland Department on Aging appoints a area agency on aging entity for each area. And in Maryland, that there are 19 area agencies on aging. And on the shore, we have Upper Shore Aging and MAC. And that's partly because these are rural counties and they need to come together to be able to work to distribute effectively the funding from the state and the federal government. But it is the local area on aging that are part of the county government or are a not-for-profit located in the region that actually delivers programs and services. We don't do that from the state level. We distribute funding at the state level to those entities, and then they also contract with local providers. Next step. So this is sort of what I was just telling you about and how it works. And we're required to not only distribute funding, but we're also required by statute to plan for older people in the state, to make legislation, policy, recommendations to the governor, and to advocate. And so we do that by being conveners and catalysts and trying to have the work of caring for older people in our state central to all of what the government does. Next slide. So here's some things that we've been kind of working on that directly impact the shore. The Living Well Center for Excellence, so this is part of MAC, is doing a lot of work with the hospital transition model. And I raised that up because as Maryland is a state, and you'll hear this from our Secretary of Health, I'm sure, as Maryland as a state is looking at the total cost of care model, which is the way that we deliver Medicare services in Maryland, part of what they're looking at is how can local partners be part of the funding and delivery system for care for older people who are Medicare eligible, and direct funding, some of which is sort of just housed in hospitals right now, toward home and community-based services. And MAC is at the forefront. They're nationally recognized as doing this work. And so we're doing what we can to support that. We also have funded a program called Engage With, which is made free not only to our AAAs and their provider network, but to other organizations at the local level. And what we're trying to do is support the development of a broad population of people who understand older people, their special challenges, needs, and gifts, as well as being able to think about more effectively engaging with people who maybe have cognitive issues or behavioral health issues. And this training will continue for the next year. We were able to make this available to our area agencies very free and to provide a lot of support in being able to sort of push out getting this training available. And I have heard repeatedly when I am visiting, I've heard older adults say that the people who they're engaging with, either in community-based service organizations, sometimes with the state, are not treating them with respect and kindness. And that's part of what's behind this Engage With training. We also were able to open the new durable medical equipment program in Cecil County. This program has been so successful at distributing for free necessary supportive equipment and technology to older people who are trying to remain independent in their homes and are struggling with affording that and accessing the supports that they need. So we're very excited that there's now a distribution center in Cecil County. And then finally, the legislature last year passed legislation to support the area agencies on aging being able to offer what we're calling dementia navigation. And we've spent this year using remaining ARPA funds, getting that system, beginning to get that system sort of up and in place and engaging with our local area agencies. And this will, I think, it's a work in progress, and it's going to be customized for each local jurisdiction. And you'll be hearing more about that and seeing more about that. But we've been able to get that work going. And we met yesterday with our area agency directors and discussed this with them. And they have been asking for this level of support for some time. Next slide. So this is a very high level overview, but I wanted you all to see some sense of what funding comes to us from the federal and state governments and how it ends up getting distributed locally. So this is grants administration, and this is a big piece of what we do as a state agency. This is related to formulas for distributing funds, for making sure that the funds are then utilized in the way they were intended. So there's monitoring that goes on and a lot of reporting. I know all of you know how this works. One of the reasons I want you to see this is that most of the really good work that we're going to be able to do in the coming months is because of the relationships we've developed just in the last year with our other agencies like housing and health, because we as an agency don't receive a tremendous amount of funding to redistribute. And that's part of what I'm trying to help you see here. Next slide. So here are just some happy things that have happened. We do have a capital grants program, and we've been able to help Queen Anne's and Senior Center in Kent County and St. Michael's YMCA with some funding. This was one of my favorite days of the year, was when I was in Queen Anne's County. I was just in awe of the YMCA Active Aging Center, and what we are promoting and will be working toward over the coming years is being able to help support local jurisdictions who are trying to create these sort of multi-generational centers, because really that's a very effective and efficient use of resources. But most importantly, it brings the generations together, which is critical as we move forward. Next slide. So what have we been working on that was a pretty heavy lift and very exciting, but in and of itself is sort of like, well, okay, that's nice, but we decided as a state that a way to really move us forward, thinking about the fact that, as you remember from the slide where you see the colors changing and getting darker, we are becoming a longer lived state. And we do need to be thinking about the two mega trends of falling birth rates and longer lives. And how is that impacting our state? And how can we plan for that? Because in my view, we do have the opportunity to shape the way this looks. And that's what multi-sector planning is. And it's going on across the country. We are one of the early state adapters to a model that's been promoted by the Centers for Healthcare Strategy to look at planning for older people, their families, and their caregivers in a multi-sector
I
way.
came straight onto a call, so I haven't made coffee.
So
I believe you're muted.
Secretary, you're muted.
Now I'm unmuted. There we go. So this is the vision we have for Maryland as we move forward, and we're beginning the work right now on the multi-sector plan, actually making it something more than an executive order. And the next steps are going to be focused on stakeholder engagement. I think there's a slide on that. Yep. Well, here we go. So the work that's going to be happening over the next 18 months or so really has to do with being able to go into our local jurisdictions, meet with stakeholders from every sector, and begin to develop the priorities for the plan. But also, what we're hoping is we're going to go about this in a way that leaves in place a network of people who are continuing to engage with each other and move forward the things that their local communities need. Because this is a desire to build resiliency and strengthen the local community, not create a structure where the state unit comes in and says, here's the thing we're going to do. And, you need to fit into this box. So we're really looking forward to those conversations, and you all will be engaged in those conversations as we move forward. Next slide. I think I'm mostly going to talk a little bit about here are our EPIC goals. So these are the things that we're hoping will happen. One is building that ecosystem. We're very interested in being able to be sure that older people stay in the workforce, get reskilled, upskilled, and remain part of our workforce, particularly as we have a shortage of younger generation. We want to be sure that there's affordable housing and healthcare available. And you know that the governor has a big housing affordability agenda. We're working with the health department and the Department of Housing to shape some of those initiatives and efforts, because as I said before, that's where the very robust funding resides. And we want to make sure that older people are included in the decision making about how that funding is utilized. And then we really want to do things that help delay dependency in older people. And that has to do with ensuring that all Marylanders have access to both information and support for being healthier and having active lifestyles. Next slide. And that's it. So I thank you, and I'm really happy to stop talking and engage with you. I'm sorry we're on, a virtual platform, because it is so much nicer to actually be in the room with people. But
I do
I'm glad
agree
that
with you on that one, Secretary. So thank you very much for presenting now. For members that have questions, all you have to do is raise your hand, and then I'll call on you. Secretary, I do have a question that will likely be the theme of session this year, and that has to do with the budget. So I'm sure within your department, you're paying close attention to the budget conversations. And my question for you is most of your funding federal, and is it sort of a predictable sum of money you get, or do you get a lot of general fund dollars, and are you concerned about what the budget outcome looks like as session goes in?
So yes, we're paying attention to the budget. And I know that the administration has been telegraphing for some time now that we need to be thinking about this. I know as early as MACO this summer, we were beginning to hear that. For the Department on Aging, the majority of our funding does come from the feds. It's flat this year, and we knew that that was going to be the case. But it's predictable. The state funding is a smaller portion of the funding that we have to distribute. I'm not concerned about it being uh, with losing funding so much as just that we're not really anticipating being able to grow our funding. And so we've taken some steps around that early on. And a lot of that has to do with this collaborative work with other agencies so that we can maximize what is available and direct it more effectively and efficiently at the local level. The other thing that we're doing internally, and this is a multi-year process, but I think it will, over the long run, it's going to make a difference. The local jurisdictions have struggled, particularly with the dollars that came in from the federal ARPA funding, to be able to actually use the funding that's been made available to them from the state. And so, and what we've done is we've had some stakeholder groups. We've started to look at the 3 state programs, subsidized assisted living, congregate living, and our senior care money, and started to look at that and think about, we really need to work on redesigning the long-term services and supports system that we have in place from the state funding that we receive. And so we have a technical assistance grant that we're engaging with the health department, the Medicaid unit of the health department on, to help us together think about best and highest use of funds, redesigning the delivery system so the local jurisdictions have the ability to actually spend that money. You know, the worst thing in the world is to have funding that goes out and then it can't be pushed out to serve Marylanders. And so that's work that we're doing right now. It's not going to dramatically change anything about fiscal 25, but in further years it will. And partly we're doing that because we have a state plan coming up that we're going to do that always impacts decisions about priorities for funding. And the federal government, the Administration on Community Living, has changed its regulations for the first time in about 30 years. And they've baked in some guidance that will impact equity. And for me, this is good news for my rural elders and their families and care providers, because what's being baked into that guidance is that rural communities need to be more heavily weighted in the formula for distribution of funds, to recognize that their challenges are very different
Thank you for that.
than other states. So my good news is we're moving this this forward. It's multi-year. It's being coordinated with the federal changes. And then the okay news is we don't anticipate our funding to be cut, but we're not going to have additional funding. And the way we're going to try and make that a better situation is the way we engage with, in a collaborative fashion, with particularly our health and our housing agencies.
Yeah, when I see your graph that showed the aging of the Eastern Shore, that lays out clear policy and budget conversations. Senator Mounts, you had a question?
Thank you, Chairman. I just briefly wanted to thank the Secretary. We had a little bit of a crisis last session going into a change in so many different things. You helped us out with the Upper Shore aging budget. I know that's not resolved, but I just wanted to appreciate or say thank you for being flexible and recognizing that. And I know that's going to be an ongoing challenge moving forward. And I don't have a simple solution, but I just want to take a moment on behalf of that agency. Is kind of interesting because it's in two districts, in 36 and 37, and so they serve such a broad range of constituents in a very diverse way. I mean, you're some of the most rural, and then there are some that are not quite as rural, but your attention to that is greatly appreciated. And it is a priority for us. We are the oldest communities in the state. You talk about the state getting older. We have some of the oldest populations right on the shore, and they're enormously important to a number of individuals. So I just wanted to say thank you and let you know that is a big priority, but it's also it's assimilated with all the other issues that are out there. And so there's, it's recognized, and anything we can do to help you move forward in addressing that. I want to make sure to reach out to us, and that it is very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And it is, there isn't a simple solution. It is a complex situation, but, one of my intentions around this is that if there are structural changes we can actually make so that we just don't keep repeating not funding at levels, jurisdictions that really have a different set of concerns and needs. I want us to be able to do that. I've loved my opportunity to meet with people in the Upper Shore, and just I hope that we continue to be able to serve them well.
And I know you had a chance to meet with them, but I think you'll find they're one of the most efficient operations. They are very well run, and they know how to manage the budget, and everything is accounted for. There's very little waste. So
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator Mounts. Secretary, I don't see any further questions, so we bid you fond-adieu, and thank you for your service, and your presentation certainly carries weight for us on the Eastern Shore, and I appreciated your comments on the budget, and that sort of covers so many different things that happen on the shore, making sure that we are held harmless when it comes budget season, and certainly on the Eastern Shore, we appreciate all that you do with what you have available, so thank you very much.
Thank you. And I believe that we will make available the slides, and there may be a fact sheet also, I think the staff said, that we'll just make available to everyone who's part of this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Next on the calendar is former Senator and current Director of Maryland Energy Administration, Paul Pinsky. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Delegate. It's great to be back with my former colleagues, some of the senators I served with. I didn't serve in the same chamber as some of the House members, but it's always great to talk to people setting policy. I was one of those for 30 plus years. So now I'm in a different position. Instead of legislating, I'm implementing. So thank you for this opportunity. The Energy Administration's mission is to provide reliable energy that is clean and affordable. I mean, that is our fundamental mission. In the process of doing that, we want to reduce energy-related carbon pollution. And the lens we want to use in doing that particularly is to ensure that the people who've been overburdened and underserved for the past 20, 40, 50 years get special consideration. Because many have been ignored for a long time. And look, the rails that drive our train are, I guess, twofold. One, the Climate Solutions Now Act passed 2 years ago, which calls for a 60% reduction by 2031. And the governor's pledge to shift to clean energy, 100% clean energy by 2035. So they are sort of our guiding task, if you will. So, I mean, what do we do concretely? Last year we gave out about $90 or $94 million in grants and rebates in programs to nonprofits, local governments, individuals, et cetera, that were seeking to work in that area. And in some ways, it's like a laboratory. We are not going to solve the climate issue with our budget. We're probably one of the smallest agencies in the government. We're at about 65 people. It's not like we have 1,000 people. And most of our staff deal with programs, geothermal, electric vehicles, heat pumps, solar, whatever it might be. So in recent years, we gave a workforce training grant to Salisbury University. We had a grant to Marlin Steel in terms of making tubing. We helped build a parking lot canopy at Salisbury. Archon Welding, who some of their work will go towards offshore wind efforts in the future. So, and the other area, which we hope will be a growth area, is the supply chain for offshore wind. Now, nothing has actually been built yet. It's been approved, 2 projects, US Wind and Ørsted. I'm sure some of you have followed that in New Jersey. There were 2 major projects Ørsted had committed to, and they've pulled out. They have committed and been approved for a project in Maryland. And it's unclear, they've sort of been non-committal so far. Our guess is they're going to want to renegotiate better terms. The international finance market is very difficult. And a lot of these companies, these developers, are running into headwinds in terms of getting money to build their projects. So things have slowed down up and down the East Coast, and not just in Maryland and Delaware, up to New York and Massachusetts as well. So that has been a challenge. But look, some of the people who are involved in this supply chain are still moving forward. There's a Greek company called Hellenic Cable that had committed with Ørsted to provide cable, not just for Ørsted off of Maryland, but up and down the East Coast. They now are shifting to looking at on-land cable. We have to redo the transformers, the ability to shift energy from point A to point B. So they have a location at Wagner Point, which they've committed to renegotiating and maintaining rather than letting their lease end. And we're hoping there are going to be more supply chain investments, and we hope many of them happen on the Eastern Shore, close to the facilities. One US Wind is off of Ocean City, and then there's another near the Maryland-Delaware border with Ørsted that are committed. And there's another 1.2 that are uncommitted, and we are still aggressively working with the federal government to get even more opportunities. The legislature last year called for 8.5 gigawatts, and we would like to pursue that goal. We met with BOEM, the Bureau of Offshore Energy Management, a couple of days ago, and we have to work with a lot of federal agencies. I mean, Department of Defense was on the call because they have shipping lanes, they have airplane and Navy flight paths, and they want to chime in on what is the appropriate location. So sometimes they will axe out an area they think is inappropriate. So those conversations are ongoing. We are self-funded. Let me be very clear, and some of you are familiar with that. We do not get general funds. Our money comes from RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is 13 or 14 states in New England that basically puts a tax on emitter, and that money goes back to the states. So that's where we get some of our money. And then we get the rest of our money from what's called ACP, alternative compliance payments, from people who rather than buy RECs will pay this payment. And they are our 2 areas, and that's 99.9% of our money. And it has increased. It actually has doubled. Where last year we gave out 90 to 94 million, it's going to go up to probably 150 million this year. So we're very excited that we can provide more grants and hopefully to the Eastern Shore. When I visited the chamber meeting some months ago, a number of the legislators, I saw Senator Mounts and Mary Beth Carrozza, former member of my committee, and they talked about grants that they were able to help get for different nonprofits or universities. So we want to help. We have some money, and a lot of our grant openings and rebates are opening now, and that's not even counting the new finances from the IRA Federal Act. We will be getting $135 million over 4 or maybe 5 years for what's called the Homes Act and the HERA Act. And this is to electrify homes, whether it's to replace with heat pumps or do other things within the home. But they're not available yet. The feds have not released that money, and we'll put out parameters and details about that as we know more from the federal government. So look, we're not sitting on money. We want to get it out to communities that want to transform and move away from ineffective high emissions to more electrification. And that's how we want to go. And let me mention two other quick items, and I'll open it up for questions. I didn't want to take long. There are two programs I think are very important. And that is, one is the Smart Energy Communities effort. And this is for municipalities who want to combine in their towns or cities, putting solar on roofs, setting up EV chargers, doing electrification, and it also includes planning money. So this is called the Smart Energies Community Grant. So we're hoping, or if they want to combine some of these for their Main Street or development districts. So for some of the communities on the Eastern Shore, be they large or small, it's something I would recommend that you share with your municipal officials. That's the Smart Energy Communities effort. And the final one, and I'll stop there and take questions, is a program we have called the Commercial, Industrial, and Agricultural Grant Programs. So these go to manufacturers to reduce energy consumption, poultry farmers for small and mid-sized to use for lighting and more efficient lighting and heating. So that's another program we're pretty excited about. It can go for business or nonprofit entities, proposing energy efficient and electrification programs, manufacturing for commercial, industrial, nonprofit facilities that want to combine heat and power. And then, as I mentioned, agricultural, enhancing investments in stationary facilities that are dedicated to raising and harvesting goods and crops. So we have a number of programs. We've broken them down into 20 or 22 areas. Many of these grant opportunities are opening as we speak this month. And there's a number of month window, and you can go to our website or talk to our director. If you have nonprofits, municipalities, institutions like Maryland Eastern Shore, whatever it might be, who want to take advantage of this. And again, it's not going to solve the problem, but it can help jumpstart some of the efforts that are coming. I mean, I think we can't put our head in the sand. We have to make some changes. We've seen the severity of storms. We've seen flooding. We've seen obviously the rain events of the last couple of weeks. More might be coming. So we want to serve. We want to help. I want to help implement rather than just legislate and demand action. I guess the buck is starting to stop with me. So it's transformative for me, and I want to let the Eastern Shore delegation know that I'm available to help in any way I can.
Okay, Director Pinsky, thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions for the director while he's with us? Senator Carozza. Senator, you were the first one up. Go right ahead, Senator.
Okay, hello, Director Pinsky. How are you, sir?
Good to see you, Mary Beth.
And thanks for coming down to the Salisbury Chamber last month. Wanted to ask you, Chair Feldman took our committee up to PJM for us to better understand the 13-state electric grid system. And yesterday, PJM came in to the committee to give us an update. And from the information they were presenting to us, they were really encouraging a better balancing of the pace of change with the pace of change with the reality of the infrastructure. And then just, I believe, couple weeks ago, the Maryland Department of the Environment came out saying that it would cost $1 billion a year to implement the climate pathway plan in Maryland. So, and then we of course know about our current budget challenges with this fiscal year and the out years with the structural deficit. So, and given that the bottom line is the infrastructure is not there, how do you, and especially, as you well know, in Maryland, the concerns of the shore community with the offshore wind, and we see the direction that New Jersey has gone, with pulling out with those developers, as well as we will have a similar congressional hearing in Ocean City coming up as well. How do you see, how can this pace of change be better managed in the climate, both the budgetary climate we're in and the representing the views of our constituents on the shore?
Well, first of all, as always, you get to the crux of the matter very quickly. So I thank you, Senator Carrozza. You have a history of doing that, getting right to the bottom line, and that's very important. Look, it's been announced that last year was the hottest year on record on our globe. I liken the climate crisis, or I contrast it with the bubonic plague, in the Middle Ages, where every day people were taking bodies and putting them on the street. Or for that matter, even the pandemic and the quick turnaround to try to control it and reverse its deadly situation. Unfortunately, with the climate degradation, it's subtle. It's not where people are affected by it every day. If your property has flooded, or if you lost 25 acres of saltwater intrusion on your farm, you know it very well. But the slow inching of our weather degrading our society and our planet is not felt by everyone at the same time. So there's not the immediacy to address the problem. So the question is, do we wait till more people are affected till we get up in arms and take aggressive matters? Or if we believe the scientists, we got to start now. We can't wait. So it's a challenge to get people's attention and invest either the resources, financial or human resources, in addressing the problem. So it's a challenge. It's absolutely a challenge. And, the PJM, which coordinates energy transmission across the 13 states, and we visited about 3 weeks after you did. We took some of my agency up there as well, and we got the briefing. They have been more reliant on oil and gas. Look, they understand and are willing to incorporate clean energy, but their MO, their modus operandi, has basically been centered around transporting energy through pipes, and they think any transition will take a fairly long time. We understand that, and with Brandon Shores saying they want to close early, there's some fear of brownouts in terms of the coal-fired power plants. There are a few left. I just heard the day before yesterday, Wagner is being told they have to stay open a couple of years during peak times beyond when they wanted to close. So it's a challenging time. But some of the changes we have to address are non-financial, but unfortunately some are financial. We've been meeting with the building owners. We want to move towards electrification and away from reliance on gas and oil. They would like financial help from the state. We want them to move, but should the state be on the hook for underwriting some of these costs? So, this is, I hate to call it a multi-headed hydra, but it's a complicated problem. And I know the governor and his office are looking at what kind of expenditures we can assume during these tight financial times. So I know they're going to be looking at that. But, we have to be careful. We don't want to be in a situation where we put our head in the sand and then 2 years or 5 years or 8 years, there's massive flooding, saltwater intrusion on all the farms on the Eastern Shore, and we can't grow food and people can't make a living. So it's a bit of a balancing act of being proactive and a time when people are aware of the situation and are ready to invest their time, their energy, and possibly finances to address the problem. So I don't have a simple answer for it, Mary Beth. It's complicated.
Well, and just to close, and I appreciate
Sure.
that, Mr. Director, but you know, PJM yesterday did really focus on reliability, which of course is so key to our constituents. That's what they
Absolutely.
expect. And I think what we're talking about here is balancing, and that balancing act to reach the goals, you know, may not be just a single source, relying on just one source. You know, and I think that there was heeding us to look at this pace, when you have policies that are so far out in front of your actually existing infrastructure. So I do appreciate your comments, and I know this is to be continued. And I
Yeah,
see
no,
I
it's a
see
fair
my
point.
colleague Senator Hershey has a question, and I will wrap up.
Okay.
Minority Leader Steve Hershey, good morning, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Executive Director Pinsky. Always good to see you. I only have 20 short questions for you, but I think I can roll through those pretty quickly. But no, I just wanted to follow real quickly. You had mentioned the Wagner facility and Brandon Shores facilities. Obviously, those are coal-fired facilities. They, you know, policies that we've created, situations that have occurred, or forcing them both to shut down. The problem is, and Senator Carrozza had mentioned reliability, PJM is responsible for the reliability of our grid. So I might say we could make a number of bad policy decisions, but at the end of the day, PJM is there to protect us, to make sure that we don't overly rely on intermittent power energy sources, but we have the ability to make sure that the lights stay on and the brownouts don't occur. However, what we're looking at, that I understand now, if Brandon Shores and Wagner do eventually close down, or as they transition to closing down, we have to get energy from somewhere else. And obviously, you know, Maryland is a net importer of energy. I understand one of the solutions, and I wondered if you can, you know, confirm this or maybe talk about this issue, is one of the solutions is a nuclear energy facility in Pennsylvania that apparently has capacity, but obviously we have to get that energy from Pennsylvania into Maryland, and the existing transmission or transmission grid cannot accommodate that. So a massive high voltage overhead transmission system has to be built, but obviously that costs money as well too. So can you just explain, you know, what happens as a result of these policies, and then we have to seek energy elsewhere, how those costs get, I guess, allocated, socialized through ratepayers, and what the potential, if you've been able to evaluate yet, what the potential increase in cost could be to ratepayers.
No, all great questions, Senator. And in some ways, you know this better than I. You know, I dealt with climate and environment. You were the energy czar, and I'm trying to still learn in my new job a year later. First, let me go back to the coal-fired power plants. I mean, the cost of coal is very expensive. I mean, it wasn't just because of governmental policies that's been tamped down. I mean, that's going the way of the dinosaur. I mean, despite the policies, it's just one, it's the worst pollutant of all of the sources, but two, the cost has gone up. I mean, mining that stuff is just very expensive. So they've been closing on their own. We have not, I don't think we have a law on the books that say they must close. They've been closing, and we had 7. I think we're down to a couple. And then obviously Wagner has announced, they had already announced a year or two ago, and now Brandon Shores. So, I mean, that's changing anyway. But in the last 2 or 3 years, they're a fairly small percentage of creating energy for the state of Maryland. And Steve, you're absolutely right. We import, I think, about 40% of our energy. And that energy, some of it's clean, some of it's not clean. I hate to use those terms. Some is created from fossil fuel, some is by turbines and solar from Nebraska and Iowa. Who knows what that mix is? It all goes into the same pool. And we don't know how that's going to turn out. We have consultants working now to try to figure out if we want to get to 100% clean energy, how do we do that? Do we create it ourselves? Do we have to buy it with RECs from out of state, to promote more turbines, more solar panels, more technology? And so that's a challenge, and look, we are committed to having reliable energy where people can turn on their lights, know they're going to come on. So we are on that same page. How fast can we make that happen as we shift to clean energy? And the jury's still out. We don't know how quickly. In New Jersey, it wasn't that New Jersey changed their commitment. It's because the financial market, Ørsted couldn't borrow money, and so they pulled out. They thought they'd lose their investment. So, and New Jersey was actually angry. They want to have offshore wind. I think Governor Murphy used a few four-letter words that got, asterisked out in the press, and it was Ørsted that pulled out. It was the developers had slowed down all along the East Coast. I mean, we understand that, and we're waiting to hopefully they retain their commitment in Maryland, or if the interest rates go down and they can get more international money to make the investments. We think ultimately, if we can run a couple million homes in Maryland off of offshore wind, that's a plus. We're not in it to attack and crush those companies or utilities that are producing gas or oil. But the scientists tell us that's what is creating the hottest year on record in not just 150 years, but thousands of years. So we have to move in that direction. And back to your question about the cost, we're going to have to change the grid anyway. I mean, we have to upgrade the grid, and that will cost. And I think you're referring, Steve, to Peach Bottom. Is that the
yes, correct,
in Pennsylvania?
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That we have to. They have excess capacity that could be used to shift to Maryland to help us in this time of shortfall. But like you said, and I agree 100%, if you have to upgrade your transmission system, it costs money. It doesn't fall from the trees. We don't want to delude people. I mean, some of this is going to cost, and it'll probably fall on ratepayers unless the state wants to put it on taxpayers. And that's a question for you all, not for me anymore. Well, it is, things in life aren't free, and it's the future of our state and our planet. And I would say farmers, I mean, the more saltwater intrusion, the fewer acres you can grow crops on. So it cuts into the farmer's livelihood and also foodstuffs for the rest of the state, or if they ship to the region. So I guess part of my belief system is we can't ignore this. We don't want to put the onus on Mary and Joe Smith, but we have to figure out a way to raise the revenue to upgrade the transmission system to ensure it's reliable, the energy source, and efficient. And we have to make that transition. How fast we make it, economics will guide part of that.
Well, thank you. And I think one of the issues that we certainly have, and you and I have had many conversations about this in person or standing up on the Senate floor. But I think one of the things people do want to hear about is because when you talk about climate changes and the initiative to that, obviously Maryland is just one very microscopic part of that. I think people would be more willing to embrace some of these ideas if they saw that there is a true and measurable difference. If Maryland does X, Y, and Z, does Maryland air get cleaner? Does, as you mentioned, do we really see the benefits in farming from less erosion, because of what Maryland does? Or are we having to get into a part that everybody has to do this in order to see some measurable difference? And now it's just the, quote unquote, who leads in doing this and tries to bring other states. So I think that's the challenges obviously you have, sir, and what we have in trying to create and implement policies that, one, see results, but two, are somewhat affordable, or at least the amount of money going into it is aligns with the type of results that we could get out of it.
One very quick answer I could, Mr. Chair. It's totally fair questions, and we're one state out of 50 on a globe of hundreds of nations. I just feel if we wait for the least among us who are less looking into the future or based on science, our country will be flooded. I mean, people will have to move from where they live. If you're in a coastal community, I just think it won't help us. And to that point, as things we have more storms, we have more flooding, we have more sea level rise, whatever. At the same time, if we electrify and go to heat pumps, for example, in a number of years, people's energy costs are going to go down. I mean, if we make these investments, I mean, look, coal is through the roof. People expect natural gas and oil prices to go up, including gasoline. And one thing we've noticed is that the cost of electric vehicles has come down. The cost of solar panels has come down. Now, we, of course, have to have an infrastructure for people, particularly of working families, knowing they're not going to have range anxiety that you can't get 100 or 200 miles. I get that. I have an electric vehicle, and that, occasionally rides with me, although I can get 300 miles to a charge. But I think ultimately there will be a savings to the populace. So this won't be onerous, but it'll actually be a benefit. And I think the more people who say shift to a heat pump and away from gas and oil, or shift to either a hybrid or all electric vehicle, we'll see savings. I mean, I haven't gone to a gas station in 2 years, or a year and a half, year and 3/4. And I think I'm saving a fair amount of money. Look, did I pay more for the car than I ever did before? Absolutely. But I think there is a short to medium term savings to people, and we can't just say you've got to sacrifice for the good of the earth. I think there's an immediate financial benefit as well.
All right, Director, in the interest of time, last question goes to Delegate Ernst.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, Mr. Pinsky, sir. When I looked at this thing, I started looking at, you were mentioning Brandon Shores, and I think it's kind of odd to me that we see that the Sierra Club actually is setting policy for energy in the state. Did that come up in any discussions within your group?
Well, that preceded me coming into this position. They were a party to an earlier filing or a court suit, and I can't remember. I don't want to speak out of turn. I believe no investigation, no right to speak. But they are a party to any decision, again, in front of either the PSC or the courts, and that preceded a year ago. And so they are one of the voices that have to be consulted in future action of Brandon Shores. I don't have enough information to give you all the details, but it's not just because
my last quick. I just think it's something we regulate, and it was kind of odd to me that we're seeing this happen in a world where energy is a major component, and I just didn't know if you had an opinion on that.
Yeah, I think there were. It's based on legal filings and findings, is my understanding.
Okay. My last question would be, as we move to, and I appreciate your comments on electric vehicles, but the people who can least afford those things, who probably won't be able to afford them for decades, are the poorest of us. Yet when we do these things and we make these changes, those costs are escalating for them, and they can't pay that. So that is going to fall, as you mentioned before, either to the ratepayer or more likely the taxpayer. And I just think we need to be more cautious of how we're moving forward, because places like Pennsylvania and other groups that are on the PGM, we're touting we're using clean energy at their expense. That's really their clean energy we're bringing in. They're nowhere near at the level we are as far as clean energy in Maryland.
Well, first of all, some of the clean energy is not coming from the PJM or from the PJM states. Some are coming from the Midwest, beyond the reach of the PJM.
My point is it's not coming from Maryland, and we're Maryland.
Absolutely right. We've got to expand our own clean energy, and we're going to have to stimulate it outside of our state. That's all there is to it. But back to the EDs very briefly. I don't know if it's called a Bolt or a Volt now. It's a Chevy. The price has come down significantly. I mean, like under $30,000, and so it is getting almost in reach of working families. And we are trying to use this Justice 40 lens to make sure there's infrastructure in places where there's an apartment building or in West Baltimore. I mean, if you're in the middle class or the upper middle class, you can upgrade your garage and have your own charger in your home. But if you are a working family living in an apartment, it's more complicated. So that's one of the areas we're trying to focus so we leave no one behind.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Director Pinsky, thank you very much for your time. We're going to move along. We appreciate you coming on board with us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, we're going to follow up with that with a presentation from Eastern Utilities and Chesapeake Utilities. The calendar, the way I've lined these timelines up, they are guides, and to the hospice friends, you get cleanup, and we thank you for your patience, because Heather, I've seen you on since the very beginning. So thank you very much for all you do and for your patience in this setting. John Horner and Steve Bassino.
Well, good morning, everyone. John Horner, Chief Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer from Eastern Utilities. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully, everybody can see that. And I've got a brief slide presentation. But first, I want to thank everyone for your continued support of certainly the Eastern Shore, but also for our small but mighty utility. We're going to spend a little time talking about Eastern Utilities, and then I'll turn it over to my friend Steve to talk about Chesapeake Utilities. I will move quickly for the sake of time. So if you're interested in a copy of the slide deck, just let me know. With just about every utility, there are performance pillars that we focus on. The first three have been around for a very long time. We affectionately call them our three-legged stool. You really need to focus on all three of them, or your ability to deliver as a utility falls over. But it's really the second three on this list that have taken a front seat as well over the last 5 to 10 years. So we'll touch on those a little bit as we go through the slide deck. So here's an overview of Eastern Utilities. It's the first municipally owned utility, founded about 110 years ago now in 1914. And it's I'm sorry, I think I might have missed my slides there. Real quick, the overview of Eastern Utilities. We've been in service for about 110 years. We've got 7 businesses. It's a pretty unique model compared to many other utilities. All these services go to our customers on one monthly bill. But as I said, we're small. We have about 13,500 customers, and we issue about 45,000 bills each month. As far as our organizational structure, hold on a second here, I went just a little too fast. Pardon me while I go back up. Here's our organizational structure. We're an enterprise fund of the town of Easton. We're overseen by 3 commissioners who are appointed by the mayor of Easton and approved by our town council. What this does is it really allows us to operate somewhat autonomously as a business and reinvest the revenue we receive from our ratepayers into the infrastructure and support our mission. Some of the benefits of municipal utilities. We're local, and all of our customers are stakeholders in the utility, and we're non-for-profit, and our revenue is reinvested in our infrastructure, as I mentioned earlier, to further increase reliability. Only 6 states in the country actually fully regulate municipal utilities. We are fully regulated by the Maryland Public Service Commission for both our gas and electric utilities. And you can see on this slide here, again, all these municipal utilities are only a tiny fraction of the total utility customers in the state of Maryland. And so the real point of this slide is that administrative requirements that are sometimes pushed forward through some regulations, you will find the munis will come and speak to our elected officials because they can be challenging for us and for our small number of customers to absorb compared to larger utilities. I mentioned that three-legged stool, and I really want to touch on those three items. The first one really being customer satisfaction. Here at Eastern Utilities, we do have an in-person walk-up contact center, which is convenient and friendly for our customers. A live person does answer the phone, and we've historically had very good, in fact, exceptional customer satisfaction scores via an annual survey that's put forth to all of our customers. Again, this is that first part of the three-legged stool. And now I'm going to touch on some of our services quickly. This is an overview of all of the Maryland electric utility franchise service territories, and you'll see Talbot County on the Eastern Shore, and that small little lavender area is Eastern Utilities electric service territory. We've been a microgrid since the mid-70s when, since electricity first came to Easton. That's the ability to serve our native load with local generation. And what that allows for is if we were to lose service from that PJM grid, we could restore service for all of our customers in less than an hour. We also have a 2-megawatt solar array that meets about 2 to 3% of our total load requirements on an annual basis. The generation that I mentioned earlier in this microgrid runs mostly for reliability. We got called on 22 times by PJM last year and generated over 8,000 megawatt hours with our local generation. And the good news is 100% of that profit goes back to our customers immediately on their electric bills to help keep their costs down. A good example of that, you might remember over the winter holidays this past year was Winter Storm Elliott, and we ran for a period of about 2.5 days, and that netted about $2 million in profit for our customers. It went straight back to them on their electric bills. We talked about reliability being another part of that three-legged stool. It's a hallmark at Eastern Utilities. What I'd ask you to focus on here is that 19 minutes a year that you see on the left-hand side of the slide. That's our average outage duration per customer served. That was the case in 2022. We just calculated it for 2023, and it was 18 minutes. Again, compared to national averages of about 140 to 160 minutes a year. That's stellar performance. In 2021, our average outage duration was 13 minutes. One other stat to share with you, 4 out of 5 of our customers on average experience no outages during each year. Next, I'll talk about our gas department. This is just a showing of our gas service territory in the town of Easton. We just completed in 2017 a full rebuild of our natural gas distribution system. It took 20 years to do that. That was our commitment to reliability, safety, and cost effectiveness. We're a radial system off the Eastern Shore Natural Gas Pipeline running down the Delmarva Peninsula, and we serve almost 5,000 customers. What's really important is that it's now a very reliable system, in fact, highly reliable. If you look on the right-hand side of the screen, we have a very low leak rate and very fast response times. That leaks per mile means we only experience a total of about 7 leaks per year on our entire system. And across the industry, that leak response time, the standard target is to respond in less than 60 minutes. And as you can see, we're responding in an average of about 14 minutes. And of course, as you would know, it's environmentally smart to run a tight gas system. Arguably, the most important thing we do is provide over 2 million gallons of clean drinking water for our customers each day. As you can see, we serve over 7,000 customers and move about 2 million gallons of water through our system every day. Our wastewater treatment facility is a great reason to come to Easton for a tour, believe it or not. It's one of the top performing plants in the state. Easton had the first separate storm sewer and sanitary sewer system installed in operation in 1914. And this plant is one of Maryland's first to meet the newer, more stringent discharge requirements in the state. On our Easton Velocity side, of course, our big project is Connect Talbot. We have a magnificent partnership with Talbot County, also, of course, with the state of Maryland and the USDA. This is a transformational project all across the state and even the country. But here in Talbot County, it ensures access to broadband for unserved residents in the county. It's certainly in line with our mission statement to enhance the quality of life in our community. And we've been able to garner about $35 million in grant funding from numerous sources over the past several years. Most of the construction work's being installed underground, which is highly reliable, but a little bit more time consuming to install than placing it on overhead poles. A little bit more detail about the project. We started construction about 18 months ago in April of 2022. And we're making service available at the driveway to about 20 to 40 homes a week, and actually signing up about 20 customers a week. So the statistics here, you can see we've made service available at the driveway to almost half the customers in Talbot County that were originally unserved. And we've hooked up well over 1,000 customers since we started construction on the project. Utility costs around the state are pretty reasonable when compared to other typical family and business budget items. We're proud of how cost-effective our rates are as a municipal utility when we take a look at the tariff rates that are published by other utilities in the state. And of course, cost-effectiveness is that third leg of the three-legged stool. We are pursuing a lot of grant funding. It's one way that we maintain our cost-effective rates. We do not have a regulatory affairs division. And as a combined utility with all those businesses, we're able to spread our costs across all the departments as part of the cost allocation model that we have with the Public Service Commission. We do have some shovel-ready projects, including a new water treatment plant, a new water well, and a second solar array that we would love to get installed. We are actively applying for grants at the state level, as well as through the IRA and IIJA bills that have been passed by the federal government. And many of you and your teams have been very supportive of us when we pursued those grants, so thank you. Affordability is one of those new 3 areas over the past 10 years that has risen to get a lot of attention. And as we go into this challenging budget cycle, I'd ask you to look at the right-hand side of this slide. These are really important programs, and we need to make sure that we continue to focus on funding them. So some of the ways that we really help our customers by connecting them to these resources when they have financial hardships. The good news is we have programs across all of our utility services, including broadband, and we work very closely with the Neighborhood Service Center here in Easton to implement these programs. Environmental stewardship, that's one of those other pillars we mentioned early on. We understand the importance of being good environmental stewards. Pictured as one of our 2 PHEVs, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. We've installed the first electric vehicle charging station in the town and have a second one on our own campus. We do an annual tree planting program with our employees. And that solar array you see on the right-hand side next to our wastewater treatment facility basically used property that was repurposed from a former overland flow wastewater treatment area. And we also now, as you can see in the picture, have a pollinator habitat and just had our first 400 jars of honey that we distributed to our employees as part of that pollinator project. To quantify our efforts in the environmental area, we did create a baseline carbon footprint in 2021 using the EPA's calculation standards. And that data showed we were offsetting in that year 63% of our total carbon emissions. That grew to 67% in 2022. And so some of the ways we've done that solar array offsets about 1,600 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And we have installed catalytic converters on those engine generators we have in our power plants on their exhaust pipes, and that helped reduce those emissions by 39%. Cybersecurity was that last component that I wanted to share with you, related to some of the new things that are getting into the center of attention for utilities. We already comply with the cyber bills that were passed by the legislature in 2023 and are an active participant with the PSC's task force on cybersecurity. Our defense is in layers, or defense in depth. We work directly with the Maryland PSC, with the Maryland Fusion Center, and with the multi-state information sharing and analytics centers, who actually have 24/7 monitoring on our systems. We're coordinating directly with the U.S. Department of Energy and Homeland Security, as well as the FBI. And our Chief Information Officer was just recently selected to participate along with 15 other individuals in the country in the National Defender Fellowship Program. So we're excited to learn some more about this area of importance to make sure we protect our most critical infrastructure. So again, in summary, this was a quick, high-level story about Easton Utilities. We enjoy providing tours to anyone who's interested. Best wishes for a great session in 2024. You'll probably see me up there at some point in time. And please reach out whenever you might need us to provide some support for you. And with that, I will shut down my sharing and see if you have any questions.
Okay, John, thank you very much. We're going to let Chesapeake Utilities present next, and then we'll open it up for questions. John, just in addition, Zach Tyndall with Berlin Utilities shares a similar business model, and I thank you for presenting. He was going to be online, but the point is that we thank you for the unique nature of your ability to provide for our citizens, and thank you for the presentation. So, Steve, please go ahead and present on behalf of Chesapeake Utilities.
Great, thank you. Just want to verify you can see my screen.
I can see you. I cannot see your screen.
You cannot see the presentation. Let's see. It's on my screen.
Hit share screen at the bottom. It's a green button. There you go. Well, that's me. Is that me, Betsy?
How about that?
There you go.
All right, great. Thank you very much for having us, Chesapeake Utilities Corporation. My name is Steve Bassino. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Chesapeake Utilities Corporation. Just a quick review of who we are. So our corporation is a diversified energy delivery company. We serve multiple states with over 1,000 employees, 300,000 customers across the 9 states. Our primary operations, though, are Maryland, Delaware, and Florida, where we are a regulated public utility. In Maryland and Delaware, we are a natural gas utility, and in Florida, we are both electric and natural gas. Looking at our Maryland operations, we have 130 employees, $249 million in assets. Our customer numbers here are 46,870, but that includes propane. If you break that down to natural gas, we are actually the smallest natural gas utility in the state of Maryland with 32,000 customers. But the logos here are some of the companies that we have serving in Maryland, and I will go through county by county of some of our operations. So in Cecil County, we acquired Elkton Gas in 2020. This added 7,000 additional Maryland customers to us, and it also gave us a presence for an office to have in Elkton at the top of our Eastern Shore system. You'll notice as I go through my slides that we are expanding pretty quickly along the Eastern Shore. And we are continuing to extend to customers who are demanding to use natural gas. We were able to bring the Principal Business Park online in 2018. And we're currently in a project that's expanding 2 additional miles under I-95. We have 9+ miles of natural gas distribution main there, and we have some very large customers that we are serving there, which are listed here. Another area of focus is the mushroom growing community. And if you are familiar with the mushroom growers, they're very high users of natural gas. And when they are looking for sites to set up operations, natural gas is a key for them. So we also serve Dorchester. We began natural gas service there in 2018. We serve the Maryland Shore Regional Health Facility, various restaurants and office space as well at that marketplace. And we also serve gas to the Cambridge Hyatt, and we are currently in the process of getting natural gas to the 300+ homes surrounding that area. Somerset is a really good story. We have 2 years ago, we were able to work with MEA and obtain a grant for a request for proposal that they issued. We responded to that, and for the first time in over 20 years, we were able to extend natural gas service into Somerset County. This is really important for 2 reasons. One, we now have brought the University of Maryland Eastern Shore online. And by doing that, we've offset their use of fuel oil, which was a primary source for them to fuel the college, and as well as propane. Another large provider down there was the Eastern Correctional Institute. We're currently in the process of having them switch over to natural gas once their boiler retrofits are completed. And for those that are not aware, in 2024, ECI is still burning wood chips as their fuel source. This requires approximately 10 truckloads, 10 diesel tractor trailers a day to bring in their wood chip supply. So again, another example of how natural gas is offsetting dirtier fuels to help meet Maryland's climate goals. Another great project that we have going down there is the Princess Anne Industrial Park. This is estimated to be having in-service date of this year in Q4. And Somerset is very excited about this industrial park and bringing businesses into the county. And then you'll see we are also working on their county administration building, which will be another project in Q3 2024. Well, Comico is also an interesting story. So once again, we are able to work with MEA and receive a grant award for natural gas expansion. And here we are working to bring natural gas to the regional airport. That's estimated to be in service date by the end of Q1 2024. Worcester is another area where we are expanding. So our next conversion will be Pocomoke City. Currently, we serve the propane system for Pocomoke. We will be converting that to natural gas in a couple years. That conversion will take place, but this will bring us to the Maryland-Virginia line once we complete that conversion. We also worked to convert we're working to convert the Berlin State Police Barracks, and that is estimated to go into service in this quarter. And this project here is one that we're very excited about. We are investing $80 million, and we are building a new LNG storage facility in Bishopville. This is required to provide service during peak winter heating season. This is a project we're very excited about. This is a federally regulated project, and so we're currently working through the FERC process, that's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, to receive our approvals for this. Happy to announce that FERC held a public hearing, which they call a scoping session, not too long ago, and we had some positive comments that were delivered there. And to date, we've had very little opposition to this project. So once again, we're very excited about the development that this project will bring for us on the Eastern Shore and allow us to increase our capacity during the peak winter heating season. So just a few tidbits about energy sustainability in Maryland. So we have served the Delmarva Peninsula for over 160 years. And two of our major acquisitions there was the Elkton Gas one I mentioned, but also Sandpiper Energy, which serves Ocean City. And this was again, a propane served, fuel oil served area, and that is now all being served with natural gas. So our primary operations are in Salisbury and Elkton, as I mentioned. Natural gas is affordable for residential customers, and it's very important when you're talking about trying to bring businesses and economic development into the state. When natural gas is available, prospective developers will consider locations more seriously. And this, again, is an example of Somerset. They have lost many opportunities to bring in large businesses because until 2 years ago, they did not have natural gas. And so, as a company, we believe that energy diversity is, important, and we believe that proven energy technologies can thrive on the Eastern Shore. An area of energy that we are very seriously involved in throughout our various service territories is renewable natural gas. And renewable natural gas is where you take a local waste stream. It can be, chicken litter, cow manure, wastewater, food waste, and you actually turn it into a green energy source. A few years ago, we acquired Planet Found, which is a pilot project it's a very small pilot project where they are using chicken litter to study how that converts and how that translates to converting and generating renewable natural gas. So if you think about renewable natural gas, as I mentioned, you have here's the cycle of it. So you have a farm, you have a landfill, you have a wastewater treatment plant. You take the waste from there, you put it into a facility, you process it, you clean it to pipeline quality standards, and then it can be used two ways. You can actually inject RNG right into the natural gas existing pipeline distribution system, or you can truck it. And so we do own a mobile trucking company called Marlin, and we are able to transport not only renewable natural gas, but also hydrogen when needed. And then it goes to your end user. Two main uses, which I'll talk about, are how RNG is used. Primarily now, it is used as a transportation fuel, but ourselves and other natural gas utilities are starting to use it into the distribution system to offset traditional fossil fuel gas.
Steve, before you go to your next slide, we're running on a pretty hard schedule end here, and Talbot Hospice and the other hospice groups are going to be presenting. So I've got about, we'll call it, 3 or 4 more minutes to wrap this up. And my apologies.
I only have 2 more slides.
I'll do that. Yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Yep. So, the EPA currently estimates that, there's an opportunity to develop 13,000 biogas facilities of RNG. This would be enough to power 3 million homes. So, we truly believe there's an opportunity here. Out of all the states in the nation, Maryland ranks 21st for its ability to generate renewable natural gas. And we're actually looking forward to being part of that solution and bringing that to fruition. As I mentioned, RNG currently is primarily used as a fuel. It is able to go into the larger vehicles that are very hard to electrify, such as tractor trailers. And we're very excited about this. So in Delaware, we have a compressed natural gas fueling station, and our goal is to convert that to also pump renewable natural gas. And we're also looking for opportunities to build a station like that along the Eastern Shore. And then just to wrap up, to show you some of the benefits there, the chart on the right shows you the carbon benefits of renewable natural gas compared to other fuels such as diesel and electric. And then just to wrap up, these are some of the industry leaders that are currently using both compressed natural gas and renewable natural gas in their tractor trailers. Waste Management is a very large user of compressed natural gas, renewable natural gas, along with Amazon and UPS. And I know that was very quick because you were pressed on time, so I would be happy to share these slides with anyone who would like it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if the members have a pressing question, we can ask those now. Let me just say this. It's interesting watching the tension in the conversation politically about energy. So Director Pinsky with his goals and his federal dollars and state dollars that flow through grants, against some real conversations that all the members on the Eastern Shore have about reliable energy that is cost effective, and how we actually do that on the shore. And both of your stories answer some of the questions I think that the director was asking and not answering. That the ultimate goal here is that natural gas is reliable, it's inexpensive, and it's certainly an answer to renewable questions as you described them. So thank you for that. Johnny, you do have Senator Mounts a quick question so we can go to the hospice group.
Yeah, I do. Thank you very much. I didn't want to go on with Chairman Pinsky, but for John, real quick, for solar power for Eastern Utilities, if people want to put solar on their house right now, can they connect to the grid?
Yes.
No problem in Eastern Utilities network?
No problem. We have probably about 3 or 4 dozen customers that have rooftop solar now.
And that's not the case with Chop Tank Electric, correct?
I'm not sure. Really can't speak for Chop Tank. There may be someone on the call that could.
Okay. Well, and then that was a quick question for you. I also want to recommend you to reach out to the governor's new director for sustainability. I met her at opening day or somewhere along the way. She was unfamiliar at all with Eastern Utilities and the work that you do. I recommend you call her and invite her out to show her around. But Steve, you were talking about natural gas and all these natural gas projects, and Chairman Pinsky was talking about how gas was too expensive and not a wise investment. Why are we doing all these gas investments? Aren't they forward thinking and affordable and driving investment and things like that throughout the shore?
I mean, that's what we're seeing. The price of natural gas has significantly dropped from its peak. So natural gas was very low, and then it spiked when the invasion of Ukraine happened, and then natural gas is starting to fall back to where it was prior to that. So we are continuing our process. We are averaging between our Delaware and Maryland expansions over 5,000 customers a year for our utilities there, and it's a product that's in demand. We are getting asked, when are you coming to my town? When are you coming to my town? And, one of the, things that we use is we were at one time able to get MEA grants to help us out, because the way this works is we can't just build a line because we want to. I called it Field of Dreams. So we can't expand natural gas and build a pipeline and hope customers come to it. We have to be able to prove before we even file for permits that we can make that line economical. So if the line is not economical, we're not there. We would love to be in every single Eastern Shore county of Maryland, but unfortunately the economics don't work out without sometimes state funding and whatnot. And at the moment, I don't believe that's available for us anymore.
Thanks, Steve. You answered the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And to the hospice group, close us out. Thank you for your patience. My goodness, thank you.
Great. You're welcome. This is Heather Guerreri, and I'm the CEO of Compass Regional Hospice. And we just thank you, Chairman, for having us, and senators and delegates and everyone else who is on the call. We really look forward to giving you an update and a presentation about the important issues that are happening within the hospice and palliative care industry this year. And I have with me Monica with Coastal and Molly with Talbot, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Very glad to be here. I'm Monica Escalante, President and CEO of Coastal Hospice. And as we were listening to the previous presentations, I want to clarify, we're not asking for any budget support. We're bringing you solutions. We're bringing you solutions that would enhance the end of life of the poorest and the neediest families in our area. Molly?
Good morning. My name is Molly Kirsch. I'm the Executive Director at Talbot Hospice, and I'm very glad to be here with my colleagues this morning to, as Monica said, share some insight with you on the ways in which we've joined together to support the Eastern Shore and the families that are in need of our services.
Just a quick overview of the counties that we cover. Compass covers Queens Anne, Caroline, and Kent. up there, sorry. And Talbot is Talbot Hospice, and Coastal is Dorchester, Wacomico, Worcester, and Somerset. And we are very collaborative among these three hospices. Oops. I'm going to talk about some data that we bring to you. So this is based on Medicare claims for the last 6 months, the first 6 months of the last 6 months from July to June 2023. And what we see here, these last numbers in yellow, is that for-profits that are nationally, that have a national presence, get to serve their patients for longer than we do here in the Eastern Shore. The average of our three hospices is between 49 and 59 days. For Coastal is 51 and 63, for Compass is 51 and 57, and for Talbot 37 and 47. Look at the difference. There's a lot of days in difference. And our revenue for our hospices is we get paid a fee per patient per day, which means that overall our revenue is also compromised by the shorter lengths of stay. What do we do with our patients when they come to us? We keep them out of the hospital. And this is the best proof that we have for that. So the average of our three hospices is less than 1% of our patients go back to the hospital within 30 days. For Coastal is 0.3%, for Compass is 0. And Talbot, because it's a small census, it looks like 1.5 is a lot. Because it's a small census, if one goes back, this number shifts up. But look at that, even if they have that situation, they are still below the state average and below the national average, and definitely way below the for-profits hospices in the nation. The other area that I want to bring your attention to is how many, what percentage of patients we see by different diagnoses. And you can see the cancer patients, the heart disease, and Alzheimer's. Look at these Alzheimer's. The national for-profits is 12% of their patients have Alzheimer's. And even in the Maryland region, there's an 11%. For our hospices, that is far less, and it's 3% and 4%. Now, remember, maybe you might be aware of this or maybe not, that Maryland has the highest prevalence of Alzheimer's in the nation. So we just want to bring your attention to this because the solutions we're going to propose will affect and will make it easier for us to care for some of these patients. Molly?
Just a quick graph to show the growth of the service area that we cover. As you can see, we continue to improve the utilization in the county around Talbot. We are a very small provider. Our average census continues to grow in the right direction, but there's still a lot of work we have to do.
Heather?
Yes, so this is our average daily census for Compass. And again, we serve Caroline County, Kent County, and Queen Anne's County. We have only been serving Kent and Caroline since 2014, and we've been serving Queen Anne's County since the 80s. So that is why you will see a significant change in our average daily census, or the amount of patients we are seeing per day from 2009. And you'll see as 14, you'll see it starts increasing up, and we have significantly increased since 2014 to 2023, with having an average daily census this year of about 92 patients that we serve on a daily basis.
This is Coastal's, and you will see that all our three hospices, the trend is an upward trend. That is not the case of many other hospices in our state. Many other hospices have not gone back to the census, the number of people they were serving before COVID. And all of us have not only recovered, this is the COVID effect here for Coastal when we dropped in 2021, and we went back up in 2022 and 2023. And we are growing past pre-COVID census. So we are very glad that this is the trend that we're showing for you.
Yes. And this is something new that is out there, and this is from publicly reported data. families can go on and rate us. There are CAP scores. There are all kinds of things now in the hospice industry for scoring and for people to be able to shop hospices in their area to make sure that you are a quality hospice. And I have to say proudly that Compass Regional Hospice is actually #1 in the state of Maryland. We are rated a 5-star hospice. One of the only few 5-star hospices in the state of Maryland. And you'll see there's a couple indicators there that show you the percentage of outpatients who got an assessment of HIS scores are also scores that we have to submit on a daily basis when somebody is admitted to our hospice program and discharged. So these are, all of these things you can be found on Medicare.gov. And I will go on to Talbot Hospice and Molly.
As Heather said, these are scores that we all should be very proud of. It shows a very high quality, and just pointing out that on the Eastern Shore, you have top providers for to serve the communities on the Eastern Shore. As Heather said, these are metrics that are available to everyone, although we all provide services within our certificate of need areas. Together, we've been able to really work together to drive these scores to the top of the state.
Actually, there was a state conference where we got highlighted as the top hospices in the state by this researcher who was looking at these metrics. And we were very proud that the Eastern Shore has the best hospices in the state. If you, out of curiosity, go on Google other hospices, you will see that they are below 3 stars, and you have 4 stars and the 5-star with Compass. Want to bring your attention to this indicator, 70.7. This means that in the last 2 days of their lives, 70%, almost 71% of our patients get visits from nurses. And if you look at that average nationally is about 48%, and for the state is 57%. So we're like 20% above the state and the national average in our surveying of people at the end of their lives. Now we're going to talk about some solutions that I offered before. So one of the reasons why the length of stay, the time that we have with our patients is short, is because they are coming from the hospital. And only, this is a data from the University of Maryland Medical Center. If you look at the number of direct discharges to hospice is 2.3%. Now notice that when they send these patients to hospice, 1% is readmitted within 30 days and 1% is readmitted within 6 months. Why is this important? We keep them out of the hospital. We improve the quality of their lives. And more important, they don't end up in the hospital at the end of their lives, and they are not in an extended care facility either. This is Tidal Health, and Tidal Health is 2.5% the direct discharges to hospice, and same thing, 1% goes back to the hospital within 30 days and 2% within 6 months. And for those people that died within 6 months from their hospitalization, only 1% end up in an extended care facility. Why is this important? Because we want to provide more incentives for patients to come to our residential facilities or for nursing homes to partner with us when we're caring for patients. Right now, we have disincentives, and these are Medicare disincentives. Now, mind that Medicare is 80 to 90% of our revenue. So there are other states that are doing things differently. For instance, Florida, which is another CON state, and look at the direct discharges to hospice is double what we have in our state. And what's the end result of that? Less people die in the hospital, and definitely less people end up dying in a nursing home. We looked at Georgia as well, which is, again, double the number of people that are directly discharged to hospice, and definitely a lot less number of people that die in the hospital. And I know we have Chris Hall from Tidal Health here. The disposition of the patients when you're trying to send them home is one of the biggest hurdles that hospitals are facing in all our areas. So we're going to talk about our ask. Heather?
Sure. So currently in a federal regulation is that when a patient is a Medicaid patient and they are a resident at a skilled nursing facility, if we come in with hospice, we actually, and Monica, I think, is going to talk a little bit more about this. There is a pass-through, which is a disincentive. What I want to talk about briefly is that if Medicaid was willing and able to pay for room and board fees at our hospice residential facilities, which there is no reimbursement for that currently. That is a private pay for patients and families that have to pay for residential level of care at hospice. If there was such a benefit, such as somebody being able to go to the nursing home, then that would be an incentive for patients to not go to a skilled bed in a nursing home when they're really not rehabable, but they're end of life. And they would be able to come to a hospice residential facility and get that paid close to the same as Medicaid is paying for a nursing home bed. That would incentivize patients to come here, because what we are seeing now, and one of the biggest barriers is, especially when somebody is being discharged from a hospital system, when their family or the patient is talked about disposition and where to go, and if home is not an option for them, they are oftentimes talked to about a rehabilitation in a skilled SNF or a nursing home, which is covered, right, by Medicaid, Medicare, and private insurance. Then they are given the option of coming to a hospice facility, which is not covered. So room and board has to be paid out of pocket. Majority of people that are offered those two options select to go with the rehabilitation that is paid for, to quote, try it. So what happens is the patient's quality of care declines, not because they're going to a SNF, but because they are then transferred from a hospital bed to a SNF. They're not rehabable. They spend days there, they decline, and then the disposition is to hospice, either to a home or to a facility. So that is one of our major asks. And obviously that is a federal regulation, but the state of Maryland does have the waiver through the total cost of care model. And we believe that that would be an option to push this through.
Heather, real quick, the bells have rung for the House of Delegates. Senator Mouse is going to chair the meeting, and I'll stay
Okay.
as I can, and you can continue along, and we'll keep doing.
Thank you, Chairman.
So what you have in front of you is the cost, the average cost for a nursing home in our counties per day. So I put in yellow at the bottom, $494. And the cost of, if Medicaid was paying for room and board for these patients in one of our facilities, it would be half of the cost. So we're bringing a solution that will save the state of Maryland money and will provide better care for those patients. This is something that is already happening in other states like California. If you are aware of how Medicaid is managed, there are companies that are managing the benefit. What we like is your support to invite those companies to have a contract with us, with our facilities. So instead of sending those patients to the nursing home, they will pay us and we will let them stay in our facilities. Senator Caruso, do you want to ask a question?
We'll handle that. Are
okay.
you wrapping things up?
We are almost there.
We have a couple more slides.
Okay.
Yeah. Molly, do you want to talk about the pass-through?
Sure. Right now, the other disincentive for nursing homes working with us is that when someone elects hospice in the nursing setting and they are receiving Medicaid room and board, when they sign up for hospice becomes the payer to the nursing home, and we are the daily room and board rate that we pay must be at least at 95%. So right now, Maryland Medicaid reimburses at 95% of that level, which leaves us with two predicaments. One being some hospices choosing to pay the nursing home the room and board payment at 100%, which provides budget challenges for us. The other issue is waiting because of the payment delays in it. The hospice provider either has to wait until the payment is received to make the payment to the nursing facility, and that causes frictions between our partnership with the care facilities we're trying to provide the care within, or pay prior to receiving the payment, causing some cash flow issues for the hospice provider itself, in addition to the hospice providers that are choosing to already pay more than the reimbursed 95%. So it's another disincentive for the partnership strength that we can have with the nursing home facilities.
And nursing homes don't want to do that, don't want to get paid less,
Right.
don't
Right.
want to have us involved. And what ends up happening is the neediest people, the poorest, get the not good care. We would like to also have them in our facilities. Our final ask is to please remember that the certificate of need allows us to have top hospices in our region, and we can never thank you enough for making sure that that is still available to us. We want to invite you to a day in Annapolis that is January 30th from 3 to 8 p.m. and we will have more information about all our hospices. This is a partnership with Lifespan Network, and that is the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I believe Senator Carrozza has a question. Senator Carrozza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Monica and Molly and Heather, thank you. The work you do, is not only important for those in your care, but for the families. And that's what, after spending time with Monica at, Coastal Hospice and realizing, if families maybe had this service earlier in the process, it really, it really takes a lot off of not only that, the patient, but the family. I wanted to come back to the point you made about you bringing us a solution and having that option of when patients are discharged from the hospital. And this, and I saw this not with my father's personal case, but when he was discharged, he did go to rehab, and that was appropriate for him. But he was also in a room with, it seemed to me, my observation, in a room with a patient that wasn't there for rehab. It looked like they were almost like, okay, they had to discharge him from the hospital, and, hospice might have been a better option.
Right.
And so when you said, I'm sure the family chose the rehab because it's paid for.
Right.
You say you offer us the solution. Is that something that you have to go through an administrative regulatory process, or does that require legislation?
It will require the political support for us to put some pressure on the companies that are managing the Medicaid benefit, because they have a great degree of autonomy in how they manage the Medicaid. We go through very difficult times. They deny our claims. We have to fight them all the time. It's something that needs improvement. And we don't have anybody to talk to. So if we were to have your...
Oh, she froze, I think.
Okay.
What I would like to say too, I'm sorry, Monica, you froze, so I was continuing. There was a letter attached to your information when we sent over the presentation. We also sent a letter that the Hospice and Palliative Network of Maryland had drafted to Dr. Sharfstein at the HSCRC. There is not legislation that you all could put in for this. However, because it's grounded within the federal law. However, because of Maryland's total cost of care model and how unique it is, there is an opportunity to request a waiver or exemption from CMMI to allow the nursing facility to directly bill the services. I'm talking specifically about that pass-through with the nursing homes. And that is a big ask that that would really incentivize, that Molly talked about, nursing homes to refer to hospices more. And Monica, do you want to continue on with what you were saying about the room aboard for the facilities?
Exactly. It's two asks. One,
Mhm.
that we are not in the middle of the room and board fees
Right.
for the nursing homes anymore. It only harms us to be in the middle, and that's the letter to the HSCRC,
Right.
because they are negotiating with CMMI under the total cost of care model that we could be pulled out of that, and it will help us immensely to not have that barrier. The other one is that the companies that are managing the Medicaid benefit would choose for those patients that are eligible to put them in our residential facilities instead of a nursing home. And the cost to the state and to Medicaid is going to be half of.
Well,
She froze again.
Senator Mounts is on finance. I don't know if maybe there could be a briefing, or so it sounds like you have two requests. One is a letter on the one issue that you're asking the delegation to consider sending. And the second issue, it sounds like it really goes back to the companies and whether that's, engagement of some of our delegation, maybe especially those on the committee of jurisdiction. I think we probably need to flush that out a little bit more on how we can be helpful as a delegation.
Sure, Monica and Heather, I'd be happy to go offline and we can have a discussion after this and see if there's an opportunity in Senate Finance where a lot of these issues, at least in the Senate side, are brought up, and I'll see if there's something we can do to try to help out that way.
All right, awesome. That'd be great.
We appreciate that. I just don't want to forget to mention that for those of you who are in the 4 counties, Wacomico, Worcester, Somerset, and Dorchester, we're celebrating our 44th anniversary of Coastal Hospice, and we're doing the Quality of Life Awards. We're giving awards to many doctors that might be your doctors. So we're going to send you the invitation. You can cast your vote. There's a lot of nominees. We want to celebrate our 44th anniversary, celebrating the people and the organizations that have supported us over the years, and that's all of you as well. So it's April 11 at 8 a.m. at the Wacomico Civic Center. So I'll follow up with the invitation properly, but please cast your votes if you want to you want to endorse a doctor you like.
Awesome. And I think I can speak for all 3 of us as well, because we are so collaborative. If anybody wants a tour of any one of our facilities, whichever counties that you cover and serve, please reach out, because we'd be honored and privileged to give you a tour of one of our facilities. It's the communities in which we serve who have paid for these facilities.
Well, thank you for that. And we're running tight on time. I can't see it. Does any other members have questions? Does anybody else have their hand up? I don't see any other hands. So that pretty much, thank you very much for taking the time and to share that information with us. And I'll catch up for the Senate Finance for follow-up.
Wonderful.
Okay. But we need to move on. The House members have gone into session now. So we're at the end of our meeting, and we do federal announcements from our federal representatives. But before we do that, I just wanted to throw a shout out per the direction of the Shore Delegation Chairman, I think on behalf of everyone, to congratulate the University of Maryland Eastern Shore on getting approval for its veterinary school. We're all excited about that. And I see Senator Mathias is on here. He may want to share us a quick update before we move to the federal, but we are tight on time, Senator.
Very, very quick. Thank you, President Anderson. Expected to be here today. She had something come up. She says, thank you to all. We are very appreciated. Those who attended our breakfast, absolutely. Be on the lookout on the budget. We have phase 2 of the pharmacy building, which will incorporate the veterinary program. We have the $5 million pre-auth from the ag research building that you guys were there for the groundbreaking. A lot of great things are happening. Come on down, see us. Thank you so much. Have a great session.
Thank you, sir. Now for our federal delegation from Senator Van Hollen's office, Alyssa Hastings, can you have a little update for us?
Sure. Just a very brief update. Hi, everyone. Wishing you all a fantastic start to your session. Was there in Annapolis for opening day this week, and it was great to see all the energy. I just wanted to briefly update you all and just let you know that our congressionally directed spending webinars have been set. Senator Van Hollen and Senator Cardin are going to be jointly doing their webinars together. Our offices are going to be combining forces to make it easier for everyone. So our local government webinar is going to be Thursday, January 25th at 11 a.m. and our nonprofit webinar will be Friday, January 26th at 11 a.m. Both of those will be recorded. If anyone is not able to join, please send me an email if you would like to be registered and you are currently not. I will also share the links for registration with Betsy so she can distribute. Thank you all and hope you have a wonderful session.
Thank you, Alyssa. And from Senator Cardin's office, Kim Cradaville.
I don't have much to add to that. I did forward our link for the local and nonprofit local governments to Betsy to share. But I did want to say how nice it was to hear from Department of Aging, Department of Energy, and Eastern Utilities and our hospice folks about the federal funding. That's always nice to hear that. Hear that plug. But if you have any questions, I just sent the local government one to Betsy. If you have nonprofits that you think would be interested, please send them to me and we'll get them registered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from Congressman Harris's office, I believe Keith Graffius is on the.
Keith had to drop off for a call, but I'm here. I'm Jackie Gregory. So just very briefly, it was mentioned earlier in this meeting. There will be a wind meeting at on January 20th at 2:00 at the Convention Center in Ocean City. In response to a letter from the delegation, Congressman Harris has called this meeting. It is a public meeting, and I believe that the press release was sent to you all as well as it is on our website. So more information is there. You can share it with people. So thank you for that. And then also FEMA assistance for firefighters grants will be open soon. That our office will be sending a letter to all Maryland One departments reminding them, and please let them know if they would like a letter of support, reach out to us and we're happy to write a letter of support for that. That's all I have.
Jackie, could you forward the information about the hearing to Betsy and Chairman Adams' office so she can, distribute that for all the members of the delegation?
I think Chairman Adams already has it, but I'll go ahead and make sure.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. This concludes our first delegation meeting of the 2024 session. We're looking forward to many more. We're a little over time, so God's blessings to everyone. Have a safe, wonderful weekend, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.